Hello, 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 and thanks so much for checking back in with me, Colleen, and the Just Colleen Podcast. This is our weekly audio podcast where I share real-life, everyday issues and solutions, all just to see the brighter side of life. You know, you've heard the term walking on eggshells, right? Well, maybe even told others walk on eggshells around you. So really, what does that mean anyways? Well, in a nutshell, it means another does not know how to approach you, or you do not know how to approach another. So here's a great quote from Psychology Today. Some folks are good at knowing when to step up and be assertive and when to step down. Boss in a bad mood, time to leave her alone. Partner stressed out from work or the kids, be a support, not another stressor. Others are able to navigate their relationships with friends or even bosses. But in their more intimate relationships, they get stuck. They're always stepping down, stepping back, afraid to open and be assertive. Why? Because these people are important to us. Because we have a history and memories. We know they can react and are on guard because they know how to push our buttons. And then there are some who sadly feel this way all the time. Walking on eggshells around everyone is how they cope with relationships. The world and others are unsafe. Bad things can happen unexpectedly and quickly. And so they are perpetually careful and cautious. Not making waves is not a strategy, but a way of life for them. When people get to know you, the real you, there should be no hesitation on them knowing how to approach you or vice versa. Yet, that just doesn't seem to be a realistic possibility in today's time. Everyone has their own perspective on expressing situations and conversation, direction. Some mesh and some just don't. Sometimes resulting in confrontative or communication gaps, even between family. So let's talk about a few persons here as examples. Ron is a business owner. He's a guy's guy. He believes the world revolves around him and the company he has developed. Ron feels that every person he entrusts to work with in his arena completely understands his perspective of communication, which is, in turn, quite confusing to some persons in his organization. He thinks one thing, yet what he relays is another. And this causes so much dismay to those few direct hires. You then learn as a direct hire to stop him and let him know that you are not understanding him or his instruction. But then he turns around and he gets tiffed with you in a manner that shuts you down. You are now walking on eggshells around Ron, still not fully understanding Ron's wants, who in turn says he must walk on eggshells around you when meeting with you because you have a tendency to shut down. Sounds like kind of an oxymoron, right? The other example is Millie. You know, Millie is an older woman who is pretty set in her ways. Her preference is to shut out or shut down. That's the way she goes when her opinions and her ways of life are not met. Yet Sally, her daughter, who is very open, needs to interact with Millie. But Sally, in turn, when she has to interact with Millie, gets emotional or angry when her mother does this shut down or shut out. Thus, her mom feels she needs to tread carefully when having to discuss issues with Sally so that Sally doesn't become emotional. This is so very confusing, especially when it all comes down to effective communication and understanding the psyche of the other person. The key word here is understanding. Now, how do we work around this walking on eggshells oxymoron? Firstly, what is needed is more persons need to be open, seriously, and understanding. Or do you feel, truthfully, that you do not need to be? So if the latter is your choice, then that is your choice and your perspective, and you will continue your process of walking on eggshells. But if you are really looking for a way to get around this whole eggshell thing, Listen up. Take a step back. Take a look at what is triggering you to feel like you must walk on eggshells around this specific person or persons. In the cases of Ron and Millie, ask yourself, how can you work around the miscommunication issue and becoming emotional and in turn be more open and understanding? So really look at the initial trigger. Perhaps maybe even this was a childhood trigger that is subconscious. This is for you to work through, yet in baby steps to resolve. Journaling and reading it back helps immensely with this as you work through your triggers. We've talked about this before, especially if the eggshell moment or moments become emotional for you. Is it really the other person or is it you and a subconscious trigger? The other person just seems to strike that chord consistently. If you still feel it's the other person, what is it about that other person making you feel this way? Is it maybe their emotions, their passion, their tone of voice, their shutting down, or yes, and I will say this, sometimes even just their presence? Again, you are feeling all of this, not the other person. You can only speak and grow for you. Take it as it comes. A good fit, so to say, is not always a good fit, even when it comes to family. Eggshells may, in fact, be an intuitive warning sign to walk away or to even back away from the situation. Again, journal your experience in detail. Include the instance, the issue, how it made you feel, how you perceived the other person. Now, what can you do differently if you can see that? Are you seeing what triggered your moment? Remember, you are the only one who feels you need to walk on eggshells. So for those who have been told by others that they need to walk on eggshells around you, do the same. Journal the situation. Find a trusted friend who can perhaps provide some insight and explain to you what these other persons may be perceiving or even experiencing when they interact with you. Because if no one tells you, how will you ever grow from this? As always, don't attempt to resolve any issues all at once. Triggers and realization of actions do require baby stepping processes. If you are seeking a coach to help you with getting around these eggshell issues, reach out. As a master life coach and a mentor, I am always happy to hear you and help you with a plan of action. Remember, leave medical diagnoses up to the licensed professionals. Self-tests and diagnosing may, in fact, cause more harm than good. If you are interested in a one-on-one with me, please reach out via our website, www.VObyColleen.com. Scroll to the bottom and submit your request. It is a private request. I am here for you and always happy to share. I solely work on donations. We are here every Saturday with a brand new episode, helping you get through daily life. Stay tuned next week for more of the Just Colleen Podcast. And remember to hit that subscribe button, like, follow, and comment. Most importantly, have a fantabulous day.